The following is a presentation of Muddy River News.
Your financial needs aren't independent of each other, so your financial advisors shouldn't be either. At Mercantile Bank, our experienced United Wealth professionals are united to serve you and your complete financial planning and wealth management needs. Are you just starting your investment journey or need to roll over a retirement plan? Do you need to plan for a loved one with special needs or for your own life after work? Maybe your business needs a succession plan or you want to enhance your employee benefit programs. Whatever steps you need to take, our United Wealth experts are ready to take them with you. Together, we are united.
Hi, this is Ron Kinscherf with Muddy River News, and this is the Business Spotlight brought to you by Mercantile Bank. We've got Bill Siebers, local attorney, and we're going to talk about elder law. And we're just talking off camera that whenever you have an event, tons of people show up to learn more about your practice of elder law. So what are the primary questions people have for you then?
Right. So,
is it older people that show up, or people generally our age with older parents, or is it a mixed bag?
Mixed bag.
Is it a mixed bag?
So I primarily focus my practice on estate planning and elder law, and that mainly helps people focus on three primary areas of life and death planning. And so the three primary areas would be when somebody's alive and well, that's phase one. Mm-hmm. You're alive and well.
I'm alive and well, yes.
I hope you're in this phase for a long time.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
But most of us will reach a point
Right.
where we reach phase two, and you've seen this with your family and loved ones. The Kinscherfs and the Siebers go back a long ways.
Right.
But we've had people in our families that are in phase two, which is alive but not so well.
Okay.
And then phase three, nobody's getting out of this thing alive.
Right.
We're all going to meet our maker. So when somebody's in phase one, ideally, they would put a plan in place for what happens in phases 2 and 3. But of course, we do see a lot of folks who are already declining, and they have maybe a much more urgent need to do some planning and sort of get their ducks in a row, so to speak.
So, I mean, is it ever too early to start thinking about this type of stuff?
No, because I have clients who are, at the age where they've just had babies.
Right.
I had a newborn in my office last week, but my typical clientele is 55 and above.
Okay, so where do you see, I hate to say family friction and all that type of stuff, but is it usually over, I guess, okay, let's start with your first group of people, okay? What are the primary challenges for those people?
Phase one, is that
Yes,
what you mean?
phase one, yeah.
Okay.
Me and you, we're doing good.
That's right. So it's mainly a planning phase.
Okay.
Where when you're in phase one, ideally you'd get the proper legal documents in place to cover phases 2 and 3.
Okay.
And so in phase 2, if I'm not well enough to express my wishes with regard to a medical decision, we need to make sure that we have others who are legally authorized to act on our behalf.
Okay.
Same way with regard to a financial matter. If I'm not able to take care of my day-to-day financial affairs, I want to make sure that I've legally authorized some other person or maybe an entity like a bank or a trust company to be able to step in for me if I'm not able to handle those things on my own.
Does that generally take place within a will, or is there other documentation outside the will?
Good question. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So
that's why I'm here, Bill.
So the powers of attorney
Right.
would typically be the tools that are primarily used in phase 2.
Right.
Powers of attorney for healthcare, powers of attorney for financial matters. And so it doesn't matter. I mean, I practice in Missouri and Illinois, but this would be sort of universal. Okay. And so those cover two of the primary areas, but also at that same time, when we're doing that type of planning, we typically look further and look to phase 3. And so a will, like you referenced, a will, in order for your will to mean anything, you have to make a very serious commitment. You have to die.
Okay, so that's a valid point. So you need the power of attorney documentation or whatever that's called prior to the will taking place. Is that a step a lot of people forget about?
Definitely. I think a lot of people come in saying, I just want a will.
Right.
They're focused on phase 3. And then when you talk about this topic, it becomes almost universally true that people turn their focus to phase 2 rather than what they thought they wanted to focus on, which was phase 3. Because it's not that my clients don't care about where their stuff ends up, or they don't care necessarily as much about who gets grandma's cuckoo clock as they do about making sure, like, if they have to go to a nursing home, like, who's going to be watching out for them? Who's going to be taking care of them?
So can you create a power of attorney document where it's certain, you almost have to make it like a ladder type effect, because if I go and my wife goes at the same time, then who's person B, C, D, and E? Is that
Absolutely.
is that a part of the document too?
Absolutely. So it would typically be, Ron's POA appointing Mary, and if Mary can't do it, if she's unavailable,
Right.
then you go down to typically the kids.
Right.
But if you don't have kids who are willing or able to serve, then other close family members, friends, etc.
So when do housing issues? I guess that all comes into place from the get-go, doesn't it?
You mean like long-term care?
Long-term. Well, I guess long-term care, or even a house that we all have had parents that are living in the house that they raised us in that they maybe shouldn't be living in, and so I guess the document has to be pretty dang flexible from the get-go, doesn't it? And how often do you revisit that document?
It does. Typically we would recommend reviewing and updating every 3 to 5 years, but sometimes changes are not necessary. But going back to your main point, which was, who's going to be in the pecking order.
Right, yes.
So it's definitely a pecking order. You only have one person serving as your agent at any given time. Mm-hmm. If that person's unavailable, we go to the next person.
Right.
If that person's unavailable, we go to the next. So I always like to have at least 2 backups,
Okay.
primary and 2 backups. But the universal concept is you must have absolute faith and confidence in that person to be able to step in for you while you're alive but not well.
So that conversation with that person too, and do you have the conversation with the entire pecking order then?
Good question. So typically not, but we do recommend that our clients confirm that those people that they are considering listing
Right.
are willing to do it.
Okay.
Most of the time that's not an issue with family members.
But there can be people that are out of town
Yes,
or move out of town,
absolutely.
things like that could, and then how often does the pecking order, I'm just envisioning this for families and how difficult that can be, where the pecking order could get juggled and
That's right.
and then you're referee basically,
So
to some degree.
If we were having this conversation 15 years ago, I would have said, having your healthcare power of attorney be right here in the Quincy area is probably the best course of action for you, just because of logistics, etc. Having your financial power of attorney be the child who still lives closest here, that's probably the best course of action after spouse. Nowadays with technology, and we can pretty much reach people no matter where they are, it's not that big of a deal. I've got kids who are out on the coasts serving as healthcare agents for their parents here locally still, and it works just fine. The hospitals, the healthcare providers, they can reach them. They get on a FaceTime call. They usually have, mom or dad involved in that call. And so on the healthcare side, the agent only engages to make decisions when the principal, the client,
Right.
is not able to express their wishes.
But there's a gray area to that.
Absolutely.
So how is that gray area determined that principal can no longer make those? Because again, the life experiences. Who determines when that gray area is okay? You're the principal. You cannot make that decision anymore.
Right. So the physician.
Okay. Again, that's not yes.
Yep, absolutely. So that would be above your and my
Correct,
pay grade
right.
on those types of decisions. But as far as the financial side, it's whether somebody can effectively manage their day-to-day financial affairs.
Okay.
And most of the time, yes, there are, in 25 plus years of doing this, there are the gray area cases. Most of the time, we see 2 options. Number one is the client themselves, the senior, realizes they are slipping,
Right.
and they're absolutely comfortable with the kid or the grandkid or whoever it is that they have in line. So they basically resign and say, I don't need to balance my checkbook anymore. I'm fine letting my son or grandson or whoever do that. On the medical side, it's not that we want to remove any dignity from the client by excluding them from their health care decisions. As long as they can be involved, they should be involved. But I think it's helpful also to have an extra set of ears, extra set of family members reviewing maybe a course of treatment
Right.
or options. Because a lot of times with elderly clients, they are presented with some, you come to the fork in the road
Right.
regarding treatment.
Right.
If we go down this way, this is probably what's going to happen. If we do nothing, this is what's going to happen.
How often are you dealing with like Social Security benefits and Medicaid, Medicare, and all that type of stuff?
Yeah. So my day-to-day, not too much
Not
on the
too often?
Social
Okay.
Security stuff, but on the Medicaid side, about half, probably more than half of our seniors who are in our local nursing homes are receiving some sort of assistance through those programs. And so the reality is that can be a very expensive portion of phase 2
Yeah.
when somebody's in a nursing home.
Yeah, so, and you're not a financial expert, so to speak, right? So you don't offer financial advice necessarily. So, so when it gets to be that point where those type of decisions are made or need to be made, how do you, as a lawyer, go about helping the client with that? Or you just say, hey, you need to talk to somebody else, or do you have somebody you trust doing that? Or what's your angle there?
So ideally, they would have put a plan in place in phase 1.
That doesn't happen a lot, though.
That's right. To be able to,
when we were younger, we were pretty stupid. So, you know, I mean, you got other things you're worried about at that point.
Right.
So,
but to take care of phase 2, to be able to legally authorize somebody else to step in. Now, as far as the nursing home thing, absolutely, it comes up in crisis situations
Right.
where, I mean, in my own family, my dad has a stroke. He's totally out of commission for a while, but luckily, after his first one, he had good recovery. Could have taken back over control of his financial affairs, but being the youngest of 5, of course, that fell on me, not just because I'm a lawyer, because
Right.
any of us could have handled it, but Dad got to the point where he could have taken back over his financial affairs after recovering from the initial stroke. But he said, Bill, you're doing such a fine job.
yeah.
Just keep on doing
Just keep
it.
on doing it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's right. But he was still actively involved in his own healthcare
Right.
decisions and things like that, and he would look to the family for help, and that circumstance is not unique.
So, what are the most frequent questions you get, though? Does it vary by stage that those people are in?
Yes, and I think I should go back and answer your question about the financial
Yeah,
side of it.
yeah.
I don't think I answered that one. So, I'm an accountant that went to law school.
Right.
Okay. So that's pretty much the dictionary definition of a nerd, right?
Well, we've known that for years. You may proceed.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
So, so I don't provide the financial advice, but we have many qualified people here in our area who do, and we work with them regularly.
Okay.
Okay, so it's pretty rare for me to have a client come in who doesn't already have some relationship with one of our qualified financial advisors here, okay, or a financial institution.
But if someone, you just run into somebody on the street, what would be the initial word of advice? Would it be call a lawyer to get this stuff done, or just get together with your family, or?
Right. It's a multi-pronged approach.
Right.
And so family is key. Having family support is key. The financial piece, okay, typically, again, they have an established relationship with a financial advisor, and then the legal side. So, I don't tread over into the financial advising side of it, just like the financial advisors don't tread over into the legal side of it.
Okay.
So we're happy to collaborate on all those and make sure that the client's wishes are being carried out.
Thanks for coming in. Always
you.
a pleasure.
Thanks.
Bill Siebers, local attorney. I'm Ron Kinscherf. This has been the Business Spotlight, brought to you by Mercantile Bank.
Your financial needs aren't independent of each other, so your financial advisors shouldn't be either. At Mercantile Bank, our experienced United Wealth professionals are united to serve you and your complete financial planning and wealth management needs. Are you just starting your investment journey or need to roll over a retirement plan? Do you need to plan for a loved one with special needs or for your own life after work? Maybe your business needs a succession plan or you want to enhance your employee benefit programs. Whatever steps you need to take, our United Wealth experts are ready to take them with you. Together, we are united.
Muddy River News. Our home, our news.